The Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose to the Cleveland Browns in overtime, in the final seconds of overtime, in what was a missed opportunity for the Buccaneers, to put it lightly. I mean, this was, Buccaneers lost and they deserved to lose. That's kind of the way that you have to view it as, you have to credit to the Browns. Jacoby Brissett has been a lot better this season, than I think a lot of people expected him to be. All that stuff is very true. But I'm going to take this from the Buccaneers' perspective because there were just some big gaffes in this one. And I think you have to blame the players. We'll get to that in a second. I do think the biggest storyline right here is the coaching. I think that the coaching had a couple of just bafflingly dumb decisions. I think that's the best way to phrase it. I mean, starting with towards the end of the fourth quarter, that's the biggest one that everyone's talking about. So the Browns are driving. There's a minute 16 left. That's the exact time in the fourth quarter. And Jacoby Brissett tries to set up a screen pass to David Njoku. Levante David makes a great play, is all over it. They get the stop. Tampa Bay should have called a timeout there. They should have. That's just what you should do because the Browns only have one timeout left. There's a minute 16, so it couldn't hurt you to call a timeout, but if you do give up the touchdown, you now have an extra 40 seconds to potentially go and try and win the game if that situation arises. So it's a can't hurt you decision that can help you. They decide not to do that. Okay, NFL teams are dumb when it comes to clock management. We all know this, so they screw that up. That's at least somewhat forgivable, although still a mistake. The unforgivable one was the fact that on a first down and 10, when they do get the ball at the 25, they go for a screen pass to Rachaad White, only gain a yard, and just don't call a timeout. So it ended up taking 17 seconds for the next play. That took you about 10 seconds. They eventually hurried up. They were able to get a big completion to Julio Jones, but at that point, you only have 8 seconds left at midfield. You only get one play to try to get in field goal range. They failed to do so, and in a drive, they basically just cost themselves a drive right there. They could have potentially, gotten something going there. Now, worth mentioning, if, we don't know if that 26-yard completion happens if they have a full minute left, right? The Browns play defense completely differently. Everything is different in that scenario. So that's totally worth mentioning. And you look at how the offense played. It was not great in this second half after they scored a touchdown midway through the third quarter to take the 17-10 lead. Look at the drive by drive. So they first had a 3-and-out. So, okay, 3-and-out with a run, a pass for 1 yard, and then a pass for 2 yards. So that's not ideal. So then they punt. The next drive, they actually converted a third down. They got a pass interference penalty to convert on a third down. They then did not convert on the next third down and punted the ball away. So you got a first down there due to penalty, but that was it. You then had another 3-and-out followed by a third 3-and-out in 4 straight drives. That was the midway through the third quarter to the end of regulation. They then had that drive I talked about earlier, the end of the half drive, and then 2 more punts in overtime. Some of these were tough. To me, there was a couple of really more bad decisions. I think, to me, almost maybe even the worst decision than the time management stuff. The time management stuff was the worst, but another really just dumb decision by Todd Bowles, there's no other way to describe it other than just a dumb decision, was with 13 and a half minutes left, you have the ball at Cleveland's 37-yard line. It's a 4th down and 2. You could kick a 55-yard field goal to try to take a 2-score lead. You could punt the ball away, or you could go for it. They decide to take a penalty and then punt the ball away, which ends up being a touchback. So they gained 17 yards of field position to avoid going for it on a 4th down and 2. It's just like, you don't win football games that way. In today's NFL, that's not a winning strategy. That was a winning strategy years ago. I get that you trust your defense, but if you trust your defense, you should trust your defense to be in a relatively rough position and still be okay. And that's not even a terrible decision. The ball at the mid-30, you're okay in that spot. Like, if you have a good defense, that's fine. That's not even terrible field position. If a kickoff return went there, you'd say, oh, good return. But you wouldn't be like, oh my God, what a great return. Because it's not that big of a deal to lose 17 yards. And it is a big deal to potentially keep possession there, as they would have been able to kick a field goal. And this whole situation doesn't happen. Again, the defense gave up a couple plays. The defense as a whole, you look at how many drives that were in this game, they still played relatively well, all things considered, I would say. I mean, you give enough opportunities, you're eventually going to score some points. That's just football. Like, yeah, it sucks that Carlton Davis fell down in overtime. Like, okay, but you have so many opportunities. Like, the points per drive was still good in this game by Tampa Bay. It's just the offense is completely inept. And I don't know what you do to fix it. I mean, the reality is they're probably just not that great of a team is what I think is the main issue. I thought Chris Godwin actually looked good in this one. He kind of looked back, but you now look at a situation where Tristan Wirfs in overtime is banged up. So, this is already a super injured offensive line. You add another injury to the mix. That is not a good situation. It's weird because it feels like everyone watching knows what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should be doing to try to fix their offense. Not to say that it would be a perfect fix, but it feels like everyone sits here and watches and says, yeah, they should really try to throw the ball down the field more. Like, they should try to push the ball down the field, take some chances, maybe let Mike Evans try to make some, contested catches, that kind of stuff. That feels like that's the way that you could potentially move the ball down the field more effectively, and they're just not doing it. So at this point, I mean, they've decided that what they're going to do is going to work. I don't know why, but that's what they decided. I mean, the running game was okay in this one, but really it wasn't good enough. I mean, you're barely getting over 4 yards per carry against the worst run defense in football. Like, that's not good enough. Like, you should be, if you're going to commit to the run, you should be running the ball very effectively. They were not able to run the ball very effectively. And again, when you throw the ball with all these screen passes, it makes it look like you are throwing the ball more and you're a pass-heavy offense, but they're not. They're not throwing the ball down the field. So many of these passes are screen passes, and also they're not executing well enough. So as a whole, I mean, I watched these two teams, and I'm like, if this was a 7-game series, I don't know if I'd take Tampa Bay to win the series. I think I might take Cleveland in that scenario. So it's disappointing because we had such high expectations for the Buccaneers. I picked the Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl. I was all aboard the Buccaneers hype train. I thought they were going to be good, but it's just, I mean, again, if you want to say Mike Evans is banged up, fine. This is a 3-7 team you're playing against, and you're trying to make some noise here. I don't know. I mean, it's another frustrating game, and this has just been one of the more frustrating teams to watch, I think, since I've been watching football, and I've watched a lot of really frustrating Buccaneers teams, but at least those bad teams, they were just bad. Like, there was nothing they could have done, and they had some poor coaches there too, but that's fine. I mean, poor coaches took them from being a 6-10 team to a 4-12 team, whatever, right? This is a situation where it does feel like, again, I don't know their ceiling. I don't know if this team is a Super Bowl contender with the right coaching staff. I don't, because I do think that they're a worse team than they were last year. I think things have gotten worse. Part of that is just injuries. But there's no denying this is a much better team than they're not living up to their potential. I think that's the thing I do believe. But again, their potential might not be that high anyways. This might just not be a good enough team to really make some noise. I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on this frustrating game. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.